Okay, so we'll cover subjects and observables today. Here in Angular, right? So in Angular 1, there was no subjects and observables concept, as far as I know. When Angular 2 came, they introduced this observables, and again, observables is not a Angular feature. Observables basically a feature of React.js. Okay, we have another framework called React.js, like another library, and there we have this reactive programming features. So this observables is one of that feature. Okay, it is a reactive or like asynchronous programming feature. So basically, just imagine an observable like or subject as a pipeline. Okay, so and one end you will be sending messages or like stream of messages, and the other end you will be receiving those messages. Okay, so and it may not be one client or like subscriber. Okay, the we can call the message sender as a producer and message receiver as a subscriber. Okay, so that is the terminology. And sender is always one, but you can have multiple subscribers. Okay, so here if you see, this is example in a pictorial form. So I have a sender here, and this is my subscriber, and I'm sending from one producer to one subscriber. Okay, this is called unicasting. Okay, and the other concept is called multicasting. Multicasting is basically you can send data from multiple places, and multiple subscribers can receive data at the same time. Okay, it's like multiple pipelines. So that this is called multicasting, and this is called unicasting. Uni means one. Okay, casting means basically sending data. So unicasting means sending data between um, one producer and one subscriber, and multicasting is multiple producers and multiple subscribers. Okay, so now if you talk about observables and subjects, right? So observables are unicast. Like okay, you can send data from one place to another place, like one component to other component, or one service to another service. But whereas subjects, right? So they're multicasting. They support multicasting. So you can send data from multiple components, and you can basically subscribe in multiple services or components, and you can basically wherever you subscribe, you get a data. And if you see, I'll show the example first, and then we'll come to here. Okay, otherwise it will be very confusing for you. So normally to create a observable, we have to use this syntax. Okay, this is just nothing but you're creating a variable p, and then we are creating an object of this class observable. But observable, whenever you create observable, you have to provide implementation. Okay, it's like an interface. So I created a variable here. Excuse me. So I created the object, and then this is the initializer. Sorry. So this is the initializer till here. So here what I'm doing, I'm just taking the observer reference, and then I'm sending data. Okay, this is the producing part. In the previous image we saw, right? So this is the producing part, and in the same place, I just to represent, right, just to show how the subscriber work. So this is where I'm subscribing to this observable. Normally, observable variables are represented with this dollar symbol. It doesn't need to be this way, but if you put dollar symbol normally when you are working on your application, you'll come to know by looking at, okay, this is an observable. Okay, this is just like indication by putting the dollar symbol here at the end of the variable name. Okay, but this is it's nothing to do with the syntax. So if you just put p also, it will work, or like if you put x also, it will work. but if you put dollar symbol, this is best practice. Okay, so now this is where we created the observable and we are sending data. And once data sent is successful, then you can say observer dot complete, and then that pipeline or that observable channel will be closed. Okay, and this is where you subscribe, and this is simple example. Basically, when you subscribe, you must be able to receive this data, right? So there will be an implementation we have to provide inside the subscribe method. We will see in the next example. And then once your work is done, your subscription, or like once your logic is done, then finally you have to dispose that observable. Disposing meaning you have to close the memory allocated to this observable. So how can you do that? You can basically use that reference and then call unsubscribe method, so that if any memory allocated when you're creating this observable will be claimed back. So basically observables will have couple of methods. Okay, so one method is next. Okay, we already saw next method. Next method is to send data or produce data. Okay, and error method is to send any exception happened while producing data. Okay, but we don't use that mostly. In rare scenarios we use that. But the error method is for, just like next method, there is error method. It will be used for sending error data in case of any exception, so that all the subscribers will come to know some error happened in the producer. Okay, and the complete method. So complete method is telling that the channel is closed or channel is completed basically. And the subscribe method is to receive data, and unsubscribe method is to unsubscribe or delete any memory allocated to this observable. Okay, so now if you go back to our previous topic, and here in this diagram we can see there are observables and subjects, right? So if you see observable, we have a single method, and if you have observer, you can see multiple methods: next, error, and complete. These three methods. But whereas subject is a combination of these two. Okay, so it can produce messages, and it can basically subscribe. So you can see you have subscribe method here. You have all these methods: next, error, complete. Okay, basically a subject is an observable and an observer. So an observer is basically a producer, and an observable is a subscriber. Okay, whereas subject is both. So that is the reason mostly we are going to use subject whenever we need this kind of functionality in our application. Okay, so okay, so we are done with unicasting and multicasting. Now we are here with the example. This is observable example. Anyhow, we'll execute and see this one, how this will work. But just before that, let's see um, what is the subject, right? Subject is it's an observable, as I said, but it is like both. It will work as a observable and observer, right? So it can produce data, and it can subscribe data. I mean, it can receive data. Okay, and there can be many subscribers, and there can be many producer for a subject. All you have to do is you have to take this reference and call the next method and send the data. And in order to subscribe, you can use the same reference dot subscribe. Then you can basically subscribe that data. Okay. Now here is a simple example. So here I have my subject created. So I say subject is both an observable and an observer. That means it can produce a message and it can receive a message. So in on-init method, lifecycle method, what I'm doing is I'm subscribing. Okay. So first thing is you have to subscribe. Otherwise, what will happen before subscribing? If you try to produce data, then it doesn't know where to go. Okay, it will stay there. So that is the reason we have to basically subscribe first. And subscription meaning you just open the channel. Okay, you just open the channel, and earlier we said just subscribe method, right? So now we have this implementation inside this subscribe method. So that means, so whenever you send some data using the next method, you will receive here, and here we are printing, right? So now what will happen once you execute this code, it will print 1 first in here, and then we are sending 2 again, it will print 2 again here, and then completing the subscribable subject, and that's it. Once you call a complete, you will not call this one. The channel is closed. Okay. So now the interesting thing about the subject is, let's say you have this subject in some service, and from that service you can inject that service into any number of components, and in that component you can subscribe to that subject, and from other components you can send this data, and that data will be received by all the subscribers. Okay, so now let's go execute this example and see. Okay, so let's go to close. Let me go to app component, and in app component, let me define this here. So I have to import observable. Okay, so far whenever we import, either it is from Angular core or Angular common HTTP, at that Angular is common. But when you try to import this observable, you can see RxJS. Okay, RxJS means it's a React.js library. Okay, only these React functionality related um, objects or functions will be available. Okay, when I say React.js, it doesn't mean we have React.js inside AngularJS. Okay, we have just reactive programming related tool set is available in this RxJS. So now I created this variable. This is an observable, and in the, okay, let me use the onInit method. Implements onInit, and once it is implementing, we have to implement the onInit method, ng onInit. Here, basically, I want to subscribe. We have to put this here, and the error is gone, and we have to put again here, and yeah, here we have to call the unsubscribe, not here. Okay, and how we'll know either it's working or not, we have to print that value. So let me say value, and here console.log, let me print this value, colon, close. So now it compiled successfully, and go to the okay, we can't see anything because we didn't do anything in the UI. Only thing is we can see something in the log. Okay, let me clear this, and let me refresh this, and I can see blah blah is getting printed. When I click on this link where it is getting printed, it will go to the line number 38. Okay, line number 38 is our console.log statement. Okay. So now what happening here is, we have this observable variable, and here we initialize that variable with this observable, and basically the observable will have this method or like this constructor. Basically it takes a function and returns a parameter which is subscriber. If you see here is a subscriber of type, right? The subscriber, we are sending, using the subscriber we are sending some data. I can see as many number of I can basically send as many number of times as I want. Okay, to or if we go back and see the console, I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, and all are getting printed at line number 41. Line number 41 is our console.log statement. Okay, so basically from here we are sending data, and here we are receiving it. Okay, so now let's extend this example little bit and move this observable part from here to the alert service. Okay, alert service will have this one, and this must be a public variable. Then only I'll be able to access it in the app component. Okay, I have to import it from RxJS. Yes, that's done. Now let me go back to the app component, and this app alert service already getting injected here. So I can take this reference, this dot alert service dot. Okay, I'm just accessing that variable. Okay, now we don't have anything here. We have only the alert service dot observable dot subscribe. Okay, plain and simple. Let me remove this method also in order to avoid confusion. Let me format a bit. Okay, cool. It is throwing some error because we removed that show alert. Cool. So now if we go and see in the console, we can see same output 1, 2, 3, 4. So from where this is coming, this is getting printed in our app component, but this data is coming from this observable from this service. Okay, so this is how we can basically use the observables. But normal scenarios, we will not create the observables. Basically, observables will be created by mostly the HTTP services. When you call backend API, it will create a service. It will create an observable object, and it will give you the reference, and then you can subscribe and you can access the data written by the API directly. Okay, we'll see that when we see the when we cover that HTTP module. But for now, this is just to represent how these observables work. Okay. Now let's do another example with that subject. Okay, subject also simple, but it is better than this one, this example, because observables are little different when it comes to the syntax part. Okay, so let me comment this observable here, and let me create a subject. My message sender, or my message subject. Okay, that is my variable name. I put dollar symbol just to follow the best practice, and then I want to initialize it with subject. And if you see, even subject also from RxJS, and we have multiple types of subjects: async subject, replay subject, behavior subject, and anonymous subject. But for now let's create the plain subject, and that's it. Subject is created. We don't have to do all this drama, or we don't have to do this implementation and then take the observer reference and call this, right? So we don't have to do anything. So we just have this reference variable, and we have a subject created by using the new keyword. Now let me change it to public. By default it is public, but I just want to put it explicitly. And let me go here in app component. Okay, I'm already injecting it here. So instead of this variable, I have to use this variable, my message subject. Okay. Now what we can do is the alert service. Let me take this, and here can call the next method to send data. I'm just saying hello. Let me save it. Okay, so I created a subject here, and I'm using the reference and calling the next method to send some data. The data is hello. And in my app component.ts, so again I'm subscribing and I'm just getting that value sent by the service, and I'm just printing it here. Let's go back to the console and see. Okay, it is not working. Why? Because the services and components are getting created at different times. So we'll do one thing. We'll remove the alert service from, we'll remove this method. Okay. Instead of sending data from the service itself, let's do one thing. Let's send data from the same component, some from below here. Okay. Cool. So I'm just sending data from here, but again receiving the same component. But this can be any component. You can basically send data from any component and receive in any component. So we'll see that in a minute. Now let me go back and see the hello is getting printed. Okay. From here we are sending, and here we are printing. Now let's change the component. Okay. Now let me take out this. Let me go to contact us, and in contact us, let me inject the alert service. Okay, let me keep the employee service and inject another service called alert service and alert service. That's it. So now the alert service and employee service both are getting injected into the contact us component. And here, let me remove this. Done. Hello from, what is service component name? Contact us component. So I'm sending this data from my contact as component. So now it will not work if you go and see, right? So it will not work. Why it is not working? Basically, this component is not yet rendered, right? So when a component is getting rendered, then only that ng onInit method and constructor method will be called. If it is not getting initialized, then this will not be called. When this will not be called, we will not send data, right? So this data will not be sent. So now in order to make it execute, what we have to do, we have to take this selector and go to our app component.html, and here we have to put it this way so that that component will be rendered, and when it rendered, this method will be called. First constructor will be called, and then onInit method will be called because of the it's a lifecycle method. Now if we go and see, the component is rendered and it is executed here, and here also we can see the data is getting printed. And where this data is getting printed, is getting printed in app component line number 30. If you click on this, so here we are printing data, but the data is nowhere from here, right? The data is not coming from here. So this is coming from alert service and this subject. Okay, not even alert service. The data is not coming alert service. Let's go and see in alert service. Alert service, and see, we are not sending that hello from the contact us component from here, right? So this is just a variable here. Okay, but if we go to the contact us component, from here we are sending this data, via the alert service to the app component. Okay, the app component is here. So when that contractors component is initialized, from onInit method we are sending data. When this is getting initialized in onIt, we say we are receiving data. It's like a pipeline. Okay, and you can basically copy this and let me put it in somewhere. Okay, let me take the student list example, and here let me inject that service, and here in this ng onInit, let me put the alert service dot the subject. So, and this will not work now because only the first thing will work, because we have to render this component, then only it will work. Let me go to app component HTML and let me put it here, and that's it. See, now our contact us is rendered and our student list is rendered. This example is different, but just see whether this is executed or not. Okay, and now if we see here in student list, it is showing undefined, but in app component it is showing contact us component. By service contact us. Where is app component? Okay, actually this is provided only for this component, right? So let's do one thing. Let's remove it from here and go to the alert service, and we put provider in root. Now this will be available across all the services. Again, still it is empty. Okay, let's see whether this is from the same module or different module. App student list. App student list is from student list component. It is from here itself. Interesting. Okay, let me take out this from here and let's put it in different component. We have contact us component. Okay, we'll do one thing. We'll put it here itself, right? So this is a producer and this is a consumer, and then the app component is another consumer. So we have one producer and two consumers, and see. Let me take this out. student list component. Yeah, let me comment this out. Remove it. Okay, this will go away. It is interesting. Basically, this should work. It's not working for some reason. Let me comment this out in app component and see. Contact us. Okay, we have to basically subscribe first and then send data. Perfect. This is working in contact us component. Now let me go back to the app component, and in the app component, let me uncomment this code. So we should see two statements. Yes. So hello from app contact us component. One is from app component and one is from contact us component. So two subscribers, but producer is single producer, which is contact us component. This one. Okay. So let's send multiple messages. 1, 2, 2 and 3. Okay, let's see what happens now. Cool. So now these two are first data, this one. So both consumers or both subscribers received app component and contacts component, and this is the second data, both subscribers received, and this is the third data, and this is the fourth data. So every time when you send a single message, both subscribers are receiving and they are printing the data. Okay. So this is how the subjects and observables work normally. Okay. Now we also covered the example for sharing data between two unrelated components. If you go back to the service, this example, right, sharing data between components using service. So we have a common service called alert service here, and we have our app component, and we have our contactors component. So what we are doing from contactors component, we are sending data through this services subject, that means alert service subject, and then in the app component we are receiving it and we are printing it. Okay, so this is how these two are unrelated. If you see the app component and the uh, contactors component are not related basically. So but we are able to communicate data between these two. Okay. So okay, you can say that okay, we are using the um, contactors component inside app component side. So then app component will become parent and this will become a child. So let's do one thing then. So let's take some unrelated okay, we have some component called home component, and let me take this and put it here. Now what will happen? The app component and contactors component are independent, so they're not related. Okay, but previous example, app component will become parent and this will become child, and this also will become child now. But when you put side by side, these are not related. Okay, so now what we can do is instead of using app component to receive data, we can just take this out completely from here, and we'll go to the home component, which I already created for some other class. Okay, and what we have to do, we have to inject that service, private service, alert service. Perfect. Now see, we can see the same output. Okay. From contact this component. Okay, so now these are not related, but let's not um, subscribe and printing in here only, but it's not printing home component because home component is getting rendered first, I think. Okay, let's see the app component is registered with the same module. Home component, yeah, it is registered. We'll do one thing, we'll take out this produce part from here and let's go to app component and put it here. Okay, so it's not working because the app component will be rendered first and then the other two components will be rendered, right? So now to make it work, we can create a method, send data, and here we'll put this code and we'll call this method from here on clicking some button, click all this method. Okay, let me remove this. Oh, we have to give a name to the button. Click me. Okay, so it's not printing unless until I click on this button, that method will not be called. If that method will not be called, then it will not send or like produce the data. So let's click here and see these messages are getting printed in both contactors and home component. Contactors and home, contactors and home for all the 4 messages. This is 1, this is 2, 3, 4 messages. Okay. So if I click again, the data will be sent again. So that means basically whenever I'm clicking, I'm sending all this bunch of data to this pipe or to this subject. And then we have 2 subscribers. So one is contacted subscriber, one is home subscriber, home component subscriber. So in this both places, I'm printing the same data sent by this subject. Okay. So any doubts so far, or is it like little confusing?
Actually, yeah, it's a little bit confusing, but like due to the, retracting the coding and all, is it okay if you can like give a short revise, like?
Yeah, sure. So basically, whenever this let me share this whiteboard. Okay. So normally what will happen, right? So in this reactive programming, this is asynchronous. Let's say you have some service here and assume that can be component service, whatever. And you have some other component or service here. And some requirements, right? So you'll be having some requirement to send data. Assume this is data 1 and data 2 and data 3. So assume that from A to B, so you need to send data from A to B as a stream, not a single time. Okay, so it's like a pipeline. So if in order to send this data continuously, there must be a open channel, right? The open channel, or assume that it's a kind of a pipeline, and you open that pipeline, and then you can keep on sending that data. Once you are done with sending data, you can close this pipeline here using the producer, the subscriber dot the subject dot complete method, and then here you can close the channel by calling the unsubscribe method. Okay, this is a consumer, or we can call subscriber. This we can call producer, okay, or observer. This we can call observable. These are just terminologies, but overall idea is this is a message producer and this is a message consumer. Okay, so it can be a component, it can be service, and depends, right? So uh, it's up to you. Okay, so now in order to basically execute have this kind of setup in our code, if we have to write that code by ourselves, then that will be very tricky. But basically what this JS guys did is they basically put down all these kind of scenarios, and they wrote code already, and they kept it as a library, so that we can just import and use it in our applications. So that way, in our Angular application, we can use that React library to basically achieve certain functionalities like this. So now what we have to do is sometimes, right? So mostly you'll be sharing data between multiple components, from component A to B and B to C, C to D, and there needs to be a communication between components. So how can you share data? So one example is you can create some variable in some service, okay, some service like let me call X, okay, X is of type string, and now now I have my service available across the application, right? Because I provided it in root. Now I can take this one and inject in my contact as component. That means component A, and this is component B, and this both places I'm able to inject, right? So now we inject it, and what I can do is here I can say this dot alert service dot X, okay, equals to, I'll say X by Z, okay. Now in my home component, I can basically receive the data by just accessing that variable. So here what I have to do, I have to just print it. Okay, so what I'm doing, in my component dot ts, I'm setting the X variable in my alert service to some value, and then in other component I'm just trying to print that value, because it was already set by this component contractors component. In my home component, I'll be able to see that value XYZ. Okay. See here, it is getting printed.
Okay.
Okay. So this is one way of sending data. But let's say if I want to send continuous stream of data, I want to send ABC next, I want to send MNO next, and I want to send some other value 1, 2, 3, or like 2, 3, 4. How can I send? I cannot send, right? So because it is one-time activity. So I set value in what is it? Yeah, I set some value in my contractors component, and I receive value in my home component, and that's it. There is no continuous stream, right? So in order to establish that stream, we have to get rid of this variable. This is plain variable, right? So we have to get rid of this plain variable, and we have to use something called the subjects or the observables. Okay. So where is it? The alert service. We have to get rid of this variable, and now we have to use something called this new concept called subjects, right? So subjects is simple. Basically, you have to create a variable here, just like our X. Okay, assume that it is playing the role of X here, and in my contactors component, I'm just subscribing to that subject. Okay, so I kept this variable as dollar at the end, so that whenever you look at it, you'll assume, okay, this is a subject or observable. And then I'm calling the subscribe method to get that data sent by the producer. Every time a data stream is sent by the producer, I'll be able to execute this method any number of times. We can send 100 values, the 100 times this method will be keep on calling. Okay. The same way in my home component also, same code. So there is no difference between this code and this code, right? So both are subscribers basically. So it's like a you are listening to a radio. Okay. So you can listen and your friend can listen at the same time and your relatives can listen at the same time. So they'll be listening, and from my the radio producer, or where is that component? Yeah. So the radio producer, they can they can play songs, right? So they can play song 1, they can play song 2, and so on. So they can keep on playing the radio, and one after the other, you'll be able to receive it. You'll be able to listen it. So you can basically listen same data, and your friend can listen the same data, and your relatives can listen onto same data, right? So only thing is producer will be controlling when to send data and what data to send. Okay. So it's like a continuous stream of data. So when in the example of X, right? So we created a X, and from one place we are setting X equal to XYZ, and from other place we are able to read that. But that is one-time activity. But this is not like that. You can keep on sending this data. So instead of this, I can put in a for loop also. Sorry. Let I equals to 0, I less than 100, I plus plus. Okay. So now what I can do is I can put this is in here. Let me remove all this. I can just append I here. Okay. So once I click on this button, then both consumers will receive 100 messages. Okay. So I just click on it. So both will receive 100 messages. So the consumer A, I mean the contact has received 0, and again home component received same data. Same way. So both component receiving the same data till 100 times. Okay. Is it clear or still any doubt?
Yeah, it's clear now. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So it's like assume that there is a logical pipeline between components. Okay. So it's like a tap water. So you can have your tap water producer or the tank. So from tank, village will receive the tap water, right? So basically, when the tank releases data, or like the department releases the stream of water, then every household persons will get the data, right? So only thing is, because you subscribe to that water service, you are able to get the data stream. And once you are done with receiving data, you can close the tab. The same way, once the department thinks enough water has been sent, they can basically close the stream there at the producer side. So just like that.
Yeah.
So this will be useful in case of continuous stream of messages, mostly in chart environment. When you and your friend is chatting with each other, then you can send data hi, and then other end you can receive basically. So the other end you can have this subject, and basically keep on adding message to your chat box. Okay. So yeah. Yeah, so that is how basically you can receive data from one component to another component. And what else we have? We saw subjects and observe. So tomorrow we'll cover the types of subjects. Okay.
Okay.
So how many types of subjects we have? We have around 3 to 4 types, but I listed only 3 here. which are important. So these two are important: behave subject and replay subject. For async subject, mostly we will not use, but again, I'll try to cover it.
Okay, sure.
Okay. Yeah. Any other questions?
That would be.
Okay.